I'm Kayse Budd, the Astro Muse. I am here to do a segment today about getting through disappointment. So I did a video recently about manifesting, and this seemed like a nice follow-up because sometimes manifesting doesn't work, and what do we do then? So we feel disappointed usually, so I thought it would be nice to do a video about that, and it's going to mostly be psychological, but there'll be a little bit of astrological content in here as well. So, okay. Disappointment usually comes when we project an idea or a vision or a goal or something that we want in the future. You know, we kind of put it there in our mind, and some might call that manifesting or attempting to manifest. Others might call it an expectation or hope. So either way, we're kind of creating an image of what we want, and I use the word projecting. That can be a little bit confusing though, because there's a psychological term, projecting, that has to do with you putting your emotions, kind of unconsciously putting your emotions onto somebody else and reacting to them. So I'm not talking about that kind of projecting. This is a similar idea of like putting something out of yourself. That's the commonality in the word. You're kind of putting your vision or your goal or your idea out of yourself into the future with the kind of projecting I'm talking about in this moment. And if it doesn't happen, we then feel disappointed. And this is super common. And it does happen to be more common for some people than others. As I talked about in my manifesting video, some people really do seem to get what they want more of the time. And this can seem kind of unfair. And maybe it is. There's no guarantees of fair here. But here on Earth, in this life. So maybe it is unfair. I tend to believe that there's a karmic reason behind most things that happen, meaning there is some kind of spiritual purpose and goal, and astrology links into that. So the things that our soul is slated for are told in our astrology charts. So I love this because it does help explain why things are a bit unfair and why some people do tend to have a little bit more if they want, particularly in certain areas of their lives that are really emphasized in their charts. Those, are their areas that are meant to be good, or that are meant to be their foci in this lifetime. And there are other areas where we have clear weaknesses or growth points or challenges, or yes, karma. Maybe we did something to hurt someone in another life, or maybe we had less integrity in a certain response in another life, or even earlier in this life, and we're having to go the hard way or have things be a bit more humbling. Learning to deal with disappointment and just creating a different kind of structure and not having things just work out very easily in certain areas of our life, or in most areas of our life, really, depending on the person and depending on the astrology chart, and based on my explanation, depending on their karma. So if you're one of those people who seems to have that more difficult karma, if it's that, or just you don't tend to have your manifestations work out as easily, yes, perhaps you're just not doing manifesting correctly. I don't really believe that, because I do believe that manifesting, if you watch my video, you'll see I believe that manifesting does happen more easily for some people, and or the timing has to be kind of aligned. But there's also some truth to how you do it. You need a really high vibration. You need to be a powerful creator in a field of love and light, basically, which is another way of saying have a high vibration, be in love, either just generally or with someone. So, and have really focused, strong vision and intentionality. And again, those kinds of things come somewhat with practice, but often they come more easily to some people than others. So when we do project our ideas into the future and our hopes and our dreams and create expectations for how we want something to go, it's important to take responsibility for that. So when disappointments come, the first thing I do, and that I encourage people to do, and that I offer to you, is to acknowledge if you've done that, and to acknowledge your role in setting up an expectation or imagining some future outcome that didn't happen, but that you did play a role in kind of setting up your own disappointment. It really is helpful to take responsibility for that, and it will help you moving forward, so you again might not do that as readily, and also so that when it happens, if it happens, that you are disappointed in some way, that you can kind of more quickly recover. And also just taking responsibility does cause us to recover faster. We're not blaming, and we're not kind of caught up in that and feeling wronged by somebody else or by life or by circumstance. We really ultimately are able to trust more easily when we do that, and that's a big part of my prescription and recommendation for how to recover from disappointment. So taking responsibility, and then ultimately trusting that there's some reason why the outcome is what it is. I'll say more about that in a second. So astrologically, let me say a little bit about this. Saturn is usually associated with disappointments. So people that have strong Saturn in their birth chart usually do find themselves getting disappointed more readily or more easily than others. What constitutes a strong Saturn? Saturn being placed next to the sun is very strong. Saturn on the ascendant is very strong. Saturn on the descendant is less strong than the ascendant, but it's still strong. And Saturn on one of the other two, we call them angles, but points of the chart, high up overhead or down below. So that's on the 10th house cusp or the 4th house cusp. Those locations are particularly strong. So if you have Saturn in one of those locations, you might be a person who might be a little bit more likely to encounter restrictions or disappointments, or have to, another way of saying this, and probably the purpose of this, is you are a more steady, stable person, and that has benefits, and it's part of your destiny to be that way. But you also do have to kind of go the long route and have to do things the slow way, and you have to jump through all the hoops, and you just might not get things like perfectly manifesting easily. Another thing that can create roadblocks and disappointments is Saturn squaring or opposing your sun. So this is reasonably common, and again, it gives you something to work against. It's a big resistance, and it means you do have to climb an uphill battle. It relates to various different things, like your relationship to your father might have been difficult under these conditions if you have this astrological pattern. And so in your early life, you might have felt resistance from your father, and your father might not have been able to see you for who you really are, and you might have felt like you were climbing an uphill battle to try to differentiate yourself or distinguish yourself or express yourself. You might have felt kind of quashed. And that pattern continues. So you might still continue to feel that you don't quite get what you want, and you can't quite easily manifest or make things happen or fully express yourself or fully articulate. So if you've noticed that pattern, then I encourage you to do the next step in my recommendations, my list of recommendations, which is to have great compassion. It's it's not easy to have this. And of course it's not ideal. Of course we all want it to be easy, and we all want perfect relationships with our parents. But we just don't all have that, and we can't all have that. We're trying to learn things. So you can't learn things if you have everything perfectly easy. So you can't learn who you are and what you're made of if everything's perfectly easy. So most likely things won't be perfectly easy in all ways for all people. But especially if we do indeed have multiple lifetimes, we can't have them all be perfectly easy. There wouldn't be any point for that. So it's a great way to learn how to differentiate yourself by having something to react against, or having kind of to climb against resistance. It really teaches you what you're made of. So I believe that all of our struggles and all of our challenges really are there for a reason, and they're there to help us grow in some way. So self-love is a key ingredient needed to help yourself endure and process and recover from the inevitable challenges that people who have this kind of circumstance meet. So you want to develop self-love if you find yourself frequently disappointed, and you want to develop self-nurturance too, and kind of a toolbox and a group of strategies that you have for taking care of yourself when you're disappointed. You want to be able to go for a walk, engage with nature, take a bath, do some yoga, talk to a friend, get a massage, diffuse essential oils, burn a candle, exercise, make art, dance, connect with a friend. You want your own toolbox. Those are some of the things from my toolbox. Write poems, write in a journal, play music if you're musical, sing. All of those things really help. So you want to really develop your self-nurturance toolkit if you do find yourself to be one of the people that are frequently disappointed, and just really, it's an opportunity to work on your relationship with yourself, and that's really beautiful. That's really an upside. So I mentioned this a little bit before, but another item for kind of processing disappointment, dealing with disappointment, is trust. So you really do want to trust that the outcome is the right one for your soul and for all the souls involved. So if you did get rejected or denied, or just something didn't manifest and you got disappointed, it's important to trust that the timing wasn't right, or that wasn't meant for you, or just not that way. Again, that's hard. That's disappointing. But it is important to trust that the universe knows what it's doing, and there is some kind of divine design going on here. I mean, you don't have to trust that, but I find it brings peace and greater acceptance and greater relief if I do believe that. So it's a helpful belief, so I choose to believe it. I encourage you to consider that possibility and consider trusting the outcome is as it is supposed to be. And that means there must be some other way for you, or that's not the way for you, or again, some other time, or you need to do something else to prepare yourself for that outcome. It's an opportunity to pause and reset and reconsider. Is this really something I want? Is this really the way for me, for my soul? Do I really need this? Am I really prepared for this? It's just really an opportunity to pause and reevaluate the whole situation when you get disappointed. So astrologically, I talked a little bit in the manifesting video about timing of things and Jupiter and when things are likely to align. So again, if you get disappointed and you want to explore astrology, it truly could be that it just isn't quite time yet, and you might have to wait, and that has multiple implications. It might give you time to get better at whatever you're trying for. It might mean, you need to do a few different things first. It might mean you need to approach in a different way. It might mean there's something else for you, and you're not even meant to go this way. So getting creative, redirecting, approaching from a different angle, learning something different or new or helpful in the meantime, all of those are reasons why something might not have gone as planned or gone in your favor, or seemingly in your favor, because really everything ultimately is in your favor in terms of your learning. It just might not be what you think you want. So karmically, another thought or another way to think of it is, as I mentioned, the Saturn thing, and another way that Saturn can be kind of strong in people is if they have a lot of Capricorn in their charts, because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So Capricorn people generally are very stable and steady and dutiful and achievement oriented, and they usually do achieve, and they usually achieve by going the long way. And they build things. They build a career. They build a house. They build a business. They jump through the hoops. They do all the steps. And yes, sometimes they really do get disappointments, because they really are working with the material world and not often cutting corners. And karmically, they may not really be allowed to cut corners, similar to the Saturn people. So again, if you're finding a lot of disappointments and you're trying to learn to cope with them, if you know your astrology, that can maybe help you have peace with and trust. You are supposed to face some disappointments, and learning to face them and learning to process them and learning to be at peace and learning to recommit yourself and find another way and get creative and show your endurance and show your fortitude and resilience, because that might be the reason why you're getting the disappointments. Perhaps that's part of what your soul wanted to learn. Your soul might have wanted to learn resiliency and fortitude and endurance. And you really can't learn that if you just always get what you want and you don't ever have to keep trying and keep pushing and keep trying and keep looking and keep being creative and finding another way and doing it again and refining. It takes rejection and disappointment to force a soul, to force a person to do those things and develop those characteristics. Another big thing that we can learn by getting disappointed is humility. So people who have everything they want and everything works out easily and they just get things in life easily, well, again, they're in a blessed life. That might not happen every lifetime for every person, but they're not really learning humility usually in that life unless they do get some disappointments and they do have some things not work out and they do have some big losses, because that's really what it takes to be humble. We don't realize the value of things if we don't have to work really hard for them, and if things come easily, it's just not a great value. It's usually that's our gift and that's our blessing. It came easily. So when you really do work hard for something, it makes you humble. When you're rejected or when you lose something or when you're disappointed, you're down on your knees, you're hurt, and you do have to kind of crawl back, pick yourself back up, work hard again, kind of reconstitute, and that really makes you a strong, beautiful person, an incredible leader, incredible teacher for others. Humility is a very beautiful thing. So I think spiritually that's often why people do, it's like the spiritual purpose for disappointment. And it's a reason why many people might have strong Saturns in their charts or Capricorn energy, or that, Saturn square, Saturn opposition, because they're a soul that agreed to learn about humility in this life or wanted to learn about it, or maybe their guides thought they needed to learn about it. But either way, they're learning about it. So if that's you, I encourage you to really try to embrace that and embrace the journey towards humility. It's a beautiful one. So kind of a summary. If you're a person who experiences a lot of disappointments, I encourage you to be compassionate, be loving, be gentle with yourself, develop self-care, acknowledge the disappointment lovingly, trust the way things happened, trust that there's some purpose and something for you to learn, humility, endurance, resilience, creativity, finding another way, or trust that maybe that path wasn't for you. Maybe the universe is trying to show you, that it wants you to put your energy somewhere else. So you have to dig within your heart and look within your heart to try to decide, is this a moment for me to stop? Or is this about resilience? And only you can know. So you have to decide if you're meant to get creative and try a different way, or if you're just meant to go a totally different way and put your energy elsewhere. Either could be true. So the best way to know is to just ask yourself what you want. What do I want to do? Do I really feel this dream calling me? Do I need to keep pushing and try a slightly different way, do some more research, learn some new skills? What I usually do is that, I keep trying as long as I feel the desire in my heart to keep trying. And if I feel like multiple doors close and seem to just it's like I look for the signs. If I keep meeting resistance and doors closing again and again and again, I look for the paths that seem to open. But I do think learning about resiliency, sometimes you do have to kind of persevere and try several times, but usually it does seem like things eventually kind of open up a little bit more easily in a certain area, and it seems like kind of that's the way we ultimately want to go. And I try to follow where I'm feeling good and where I feel like it does tend to flow a little bit more easily rather than a full upstream paddle all the time. But sometimes I really do persist. So again, it just depends on if I'm making any progress and how bad I want it. If I'm making some progress and I want it bad, I keep persisting. If I am not making too much progress, nothing much seems to be changing, it's unpleasant for me, I'm feeling hurt or belabored or something, I usually will start to direct my energy somewhere else. And especially if that starts flowing, I try to trust, well, I think I'm going to go that way, and I do tend to always follow my passion and my heart, and what does tend to come a little bit more easily for me. I feel that's more in line with what is in our charts and what kind of spirit wants us to focus on. So that's what I have to offer you. Don't want to make it too long, so I hope that you find some of that helpful. It certainly has been helpful for me. I have a Saturn square the sun in my astrology chart, so I know about this. I am a sometimes good manifester, and plenty of time I also get disappointed. So I really have learned this lesson myself, and I work a lot with it within my psychology/psychiatry practice, also within my astrology practice. So yeah, I wanted to share some of the wisdom and experience and learning I've had with you. I hope it helps some of you. Okay, bye. Aloha.